What if I told you that in most democracies, the people don't actually rule, their representatives do? And sometimes, those representatives make decisions against what the people want, and it's still called democracy. Today we are unpacking one of the most misunderstood concepts in politics, constitutional democracy, and the different models of representation that make it work. When we say democracy, most people think of the will of the people. But in reality, democracy is a careful balancing act between freedom, law, and representation. It's not chaos where everyone votes on everything, it's a system built on rules, institutions, and a promise that those in power are still accountable to the people. By the end of this video, you'll understand what constitutional democracy actually means, how different models of representation like trustee, delegate, and partisan shape decision-making, why representation sometimes protects democracy by limiting popular demands, and real-world case studies that show where this balance works and where it fails. Let's start with what keeps constitutional democracy from collapsing into either tyranny or total confusion: the Constitution itself. A constitutional democracy is basically democracy with guardrails. It's a system where the power of the majority is limited by a written or unwritten constitution that guarantees individual rights and separates powers. Think of it like a football game: the people are the players, but the constitution is the rulebook. It makes sure the game stays fair, even when one team gets too strong. In a constitutional democracy, elections decide who governs, but the constitution decides how they govern. Countries like the United States, Germany, India, and South Africa are great examples. They all have constitutions that outline not just government powers but also citizens' rights, free speech, equality before the law, freedom of religion, and independent courts to protect those rights. The genius of constitutional democracy lies in how it balances two powerful ideas: majority rule and minority rights. Majority rule means the people's collective choice decides policy. But without limits, majority rule can become majority tyranny, where 51% can trample over the other 49%. That's where the Constitution steps in. It says, sure, you can govern, but here are the lines you cannot cross. For example, in the US, even if the majority wanted to ban free speech, the First Amendment stops them. In India, the Supreme Court has struck down laws that violated the basic structure of the Constitution, even when passed by Parliament. This is why constitutional democracies aren't just about who's in power, but how power is used. Now here's the real question. If people don't directly make decisions, how are they represented? Representation is the beating heart of modern democracy. It's what connects ordinary citizens to political power. But not all representation works the same way. Over centuries, political thinkers developed different models to explain how elected officials should act once they're in office. Let's break down the three main models. First is the delegate model. In the delegate model, representatives are basically mouthpieces for their voters. They are expected to follow the will of the people even if they personally disagree. Think of them as human microphones. Their job is to amplify what their constituents want. This model is most popular in systems where public opinion is highly valued. For instance, in the US House of Representatives, members often vote based on what their districts want, especially close to elections. The advantage: it's democratic, people's voices are heard directly through their representatives. The downside: it can make leaders afraid to take tough, unpopular decisions that are necessary in the long run. Second is the trustee model. The trustee model flips the logic. Here, representatives are trusted to use their own judgment and expertise, even if it goes against the majority opinion of their voters. The British philosopher Edmund Burke is the father of this idea. Back in 1774, he told voters in Bristol that he owed them not just his industry, but his judgment, and that he would betray them if he sacrificed his conscience to their opinions. This model values wisdom and long-term thinking over instant public approval. Case in point, Winston Churchill, during World War II, made unpopular wartime decisions that historians later credited with saving Britain. That's trustee leadership in action. The downside? It risks alienating voters who feel ignored. Representation starts to feel like rule by elites. Third is the party, or partisan, model. The party model focuses on political parties as the main link between citizens and government. In this view, people don't vote for individuals, they vote for parties and the programs those parties promise. Once elected, representatives are expected to stay loyal to their party's platform. This creates unity, stability, and predictability. You can see this clearly in parliamentary systems like the United Kingdom or Canada, where party discipline is strong. MPs almost always vote with their party. Crossing the floor can mean political suicide. The advantage? It keeps governments coherent. The risk? It can reduce independent thinking and turn parliaments into echo chambers. To explain this better, let's look at real-world case studies. The first case is the United Kingdom, representing the party model at its best. The UK is a textbook case of the party model in action. Voters choose between major parties, usually the Conservatives or Labour, and whichever wins the majority forms the government. When Boris Johnson pushed through Brexit, his party's majority in the House of Commons made it possible, even though public opinion was deeply divided. That's how strong party unity can override individual dissent. Political scientists like Matthew Flinders, 2019, note that this structure ensures efficiency, but also reduces deliberation. MPs vote along party lines even when their personal or constituency views differ. So, while the system produces stability, it often sidelines debate, democracy's lifeblood. The second case is the United States, representing the trustee and delegate models in tension. In the US, both models exist side by side. Senators often act as trustees, serving 6-year terms and focusing on long-term national interests. Representatives, elected every 2 years, tend to be delegates, responding quickly to voter concerns. A 2021 study by the Pew Research Center found that nearly 70% of Americans want their representatives to follow the will of the people, but over half still value leaders who act on their conscience. That's the ongoing tension between democracy and leadership. When Congress debated the 2008 financial bailout, many representatives faced furious voters who opposed it. Yet, some voted yes anyway, believing it would prevent an economic collapse. That's the trustee model saving the system from short-term anger. Our third case is India, representing balanced constitutional democracy in a diverse nation. India is the world's largest constitutional democracy, and a fascinating blend of all three models. The Indian Constitution, 1950, lays down detailed limits on government power while ensuring broad representation through a parliamentary system. According to political scholar Rajiv Bhargava, 2017, India's democracy works because its constitution mediates between unity and diversity, authority and freedom. In India, MPs are often bound by party loyalty, but public pressure can still sway them. Meanwhile, the judiciary plays a trustee-like role, protecting rights even when parliament overreaches, as seen in landmark cases like Kesavananda Bharati vs. State of Kerala, 1973, where the Supreme Court ruled that parliament cannot alter the basic structure of the constitution. That's constitutional democracy at work, law, representation, and accountability all balancing each other. Here's where the story gets interesting and troubling. Around the world, people are losing faith in representative democracy. Polls by Edelman Trust Barometer, 2023, show that over 60% of citizens in democratic countries believe their leaders don't represent people like me. Why? Because the gap between representation and reality is growing. Politicians campaign as delegates but govern as trustees. Parties make promises but prioritize survival. Lobbyists and elites influence decisions behind closed doors. As a result, populist movements have surged, from Brexit to Trumpism to Modi's nationalism, claiming to give power back to the people. But here's the paradox: in trying to restore true democracy, populism often weakens the very constitutional limits that protect democracy from itself. So, can constitutional democracy evolve? Absolutely. Technology is transforming representation. Digital tools let citizens voice opinions directly: petitions, e-governance, online referendums. Some cities, like Reykjavik, Iceland, even crowdsource laws from online discussions. But this digital democracy also comes with dangers: misinformation, mob rule, and echo chambers. Imagine legislating based on trending hashtags. It's democracy on caffeine. Experts like Helen Landamo, Yale University, argue for open democracy, a model that uses random citizen assemblies alongside elected officials, combining expertise with public participation. France tested this in its Citizens' Climate Convention, 2019, where randomly selected citizens proposed climate policies later debated in Parliament. It's not perfect, but it's proof that representation can adapt, and maybe even rebuild trust. Here's the big realization: representation is both democracy's greatest strength and its weakest point. Without it, modern states couldn't function. You can't have 300 million people voting on every issue. But with it, we risk creating a political class too distant from the people they serve. The key is balance. Constitutional democracy only works when leaders act as trustees guided by principles, delegates sensitive to the public, and partisans loyal to shared programs, all under the rule of law. The Constitution is the referee, not a player. It ensures no model dominates completely. As political theorist Robert Dole wrote, democracy isn't about perfection, it's about a system that keeps correcting itself. And that's exactly what constitutional democracy tries to do. So, what have we learned? A constitutional democracy isn't just people power. It's power wrapped in laws, guided by representation, and limited by rights. The delegate model gives us voice. The trustee model gives us wisdom. The party model gives us organization. When they work together, democracy thrives. When one takes over, democracy suffers. The big takeaway: democracy isn't a destination, it's maintenance. Like a car, it needs constant tune-ups, transparency, accountability, and constitutional respect. So next time someone says, "The government doesn't represent me," remember, representation is messy by design. It's not about perfect harmony. It's about preventing chaos. If this breakdown helped you understand constitutional democracy better, hit that like button, share it with a friend studying politics, and subscribe to @TheTeachingEtudiant for more deep dives like this.